The focus of this rewind is the build-up to Cloud9's CSGO Major Championship. Cloud9's victorious campaign at the E-League Boston Major in early 2018 is already, not even 3 years later, a legendary feat. In part due to marking North America's first major in CSGO after over 4 years of trying, but also thanks to C9 appearing seemingly out of nowhere to capture the title. The context behind the team's rise to that epic moment bears consideration. After the 5-man lineup was cemented, the team played 7 offline tournaments before arriving at the major. They would reach the semi-finals of 3 significant international events, win 2 Tier 2 events, and showed real signs of being on the brink of a finals run against any field. C9's biggest problem was that they kept running into the elite teams and being eliminated by them. In fact, over those 7 tournaments, they would only lose in best-of-3 series to the top-ranked sides in the world, SK Gaming, FaZe Clan and Astralis. This is the story of C9's build-up to their eventual major championship and the wins and losses that made the moment of victory so compelling. Despite having had a nice run of results over the summer of 2017, culminating in a finals appearance at ESL One Cologne, the lineup featuring Shroud and Nothing was unable to make top 8 at PGL Krakow, the major, and thus saw significant changes enacted. Rush and Tarek came in from the Optic team that had largely stalled for most of the year since losing Stanislaw and replaced the aforementioned C9 mainstays. This new look C9 lineup would feature plenty of skill and role overlaps. Tarek was often the leader, but the team clearly played a more scrimmy NA style and they heavily leaned into being brawly and playing off their talent. Much like their eventual nemesis in FaZe, their first event with their new lineup was a bust, as they too went out of DreamHack Masters Malmo prior to the playoffs. Even in this result, we see context which now seems more forgiving. They lost a BO1 to North, who were eventual finalists, and a best-of-3 to SK Gaming, then the best team in the world. That very same SK lineup had won 5 of their previous 7 offline tournaments. A couple of weeks later, the team was back on home soil for ESL One New York. This event saw C9 pull off a quiet top 4 finish at a stacked tournament. Despite beating Simple's Na'Vi twice, once in a best-of-3, to make the playoffs, C9's run was overshadowed by fellow NA side Team Liquid doing what they had been unable to in 2 regards, beating SK Gaming in a best-of-3 and making the final. There was also the small matter of FaZe blasting C9 out of the event, giving up only 7 rounds total over 2 maps en route to one of the most dominant event wins in CS history. This defeat was so brutal and final in nature that it saw C9 finishing top 4 but without much fanfare or excitement surrounding that finish. It was hard to get as excited while Team Liquid were coming off a second series victory over SK in a month. At October's E-League premiere, C9 had perhaps their best chance at a finals run with the new lineup. After easily escaping a weak group, Rush and company swept G2, a championship lineup from earlier that year, and the French super team in the quarterfinals to make another semi-final. Skadoodle was in arguably the worst year of his career, but brought out a vintage performance to secure this win. In one of the last events before Device saw health issues affect his play, C9 went head-to-head with the Astralis lineup that had been the best in the game earlier in 2017 and came close to beating them 2-0. After a strong win on Mirage, C9 were in position to close out the series twice against the Mighty Danes, once as Automatic and Tarek faced Zipnix in the kind of A-site 1v2 the Dane has made a career of winning, and again as C9 were at 14-10 and facing a low econ buy from Astralis. Astralis took the deciding map of Inferno by big numbers. The key moments passed C9 by and they were forced to watch as Astralis went on to the final and denied Tarek and his men another crack at FaZe Clan. Next up came 2 smaller events featuring some good international sides but not elite competition all in all. At DreamHack Open Denver, C9 edged out a fantastically close 3-map series with Mouse Sports, the team who had bested Team Liquid to win ESG Mykonos a few tournaments back, and would go on to be one of the world's elite squads a few months later. Another throwback Skadoodle performance went alongside one of Stewie's best events, and C9 reached the final. There, they faced a tactical challenge, facing the Gobby-led Big, who had made the playoffs of the last major. With Stewie posting a plus 21 differential for the final, C9 swept the series despite a close cash game and secured the trophy. At the iBuyPower Masters, the field was more decidedly NA based, so the key wins for C9 came over domestic rivals Team Liquid and Renegades. TL had been outperforming them in placings, making 2 international finals, but C9 got the best of them head to head, and Renegades were living off strong performances by former Optic Man Naf, winning Star Series, but fell in the final here. Stewie again was looking like he was back in prime form over these 2 most important series. C9 won both tournaments, establishing themselves as a strong team, lacking only a big international final to put a stamp of authenticity on their status as a contender. Back on the international circuit, but still in NA, C9 flew off to Auckland for IEM. Despite an up and down group stage where they won maps of Astralis and SK, but also lost to NiP and Envy, the NA side were pushed in a 3-map series against major champions Gambit. Skadoodle and Tarek were the men of the hour and helped C9 reach another semi-final together. This would mark a second matchup with FaZe Clan, and while C9 won a few rounds more, the end result was another hard 2-0 for the international side, and C9's players struggled to have proper impact on the series. What made this matchup so brutal for Stewie and the others was that FaZe embodied so many of their own strengths, from their high average skill level to a looser style of individually driven play, but surpassed them in said regards. Even the team's map pools overlapped heavily, with C9's Cobble being permabanned by Carrigan and company, ensuring there was nowhere to push the series. The last event of 2017 was the ECS Season 4 Finals, and this would mark the first time since DreamHack Malmo, the debut event for this lineup, that C9 failed to make the playoffs. Their group was stacked, with a FaZe Clan that had won championships already, a Team Liquid who had made international finals, and an Astralis lineup that admittedly had a stand-in, but still contained one of the year's best cores. C9 lost the opener to Astralis on train, but came back with a 2-0 sweep of Team Liquid to again assert domestic dominance. The decider for the playoffs proved to be against FaZe, who had been shockingly beaten in an upset by the Astralis team featuring Rubino as a stand-in. For the 3rd straight time, FaZe won in 2-0 fashion, though this time, C9 managed to hit double digits rounds 1 and the 11-16 loss on the second map. Again, the C9 players struggled across the board, while some of FaZe's big names ran wild. 2017 had finished with Cloud9 as a quality top 5 ranked team, capable of beating many of the game's good teams and making deep runs, but lacking a little something extra in key matchups with the world's elite sides, and thus left without the big trophies they hoped to acquire. Something had to change for 2018, and of course, it did in the most important of moments.